she is, the hottest non-human primate on two legs, and the beginning to thousands of arguments online. As David and Jeff have made their way through epic Bigfoot encounters, they find themselves at the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Oh my god, 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 it's gonna be so good, it's gonna be so good!
We already had this in queue, folks, but after last week, it's gonna be just the right thing to do. So at this point, I should just shut my yap and turn it straight over to the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
That's right, everybody. Welcome to the Squatchers Lounge podcast. I am your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly. We are the #1 Bigfoot webcast in the galaxy so far, especially since no one else has been able to keep up with our numbers at least, and officially more views than the entire Bigfoot Bounty series. I don't know what to tell you about that. As with me, as always, is the greatest announcer man in Squatchers Lounge podcast history, Dr. David Batdorf, pseudo-scientist. How you doing, buddy?
Well, you can't be a pseudo-scientist without coming against this topic a few times, so I am very, very excited to get on with this one. It's going to be good.
That's right. Getting on with the topic of two cowboys running into Bigfoot in Bluff Creek. I don't know. We're going to get to that in just a little bit, though. First things first, we got to get to the news.
And now for the Squatchers Lounge news, bringing you the most up-to-date topics from across the interwebs week after week after week. The Squatchers Lounge podcast. Let's get newsy.
Get newsy with it, that's right. Hey, the Daily Mail, we like the Daily Mail. Not always correct, but we do like the stories that come out of it. Fresh Bigfoot mystery as police admit they're baffled by a giant decomposed foot found in Massachusetts woods. Apparently, somebody whacked off the claws of a bear and probably took them with them, and now this is all that's left of the foot. And it's all just, we're going to DNA test it to make sure it's not human. Well, chances are it's just going to be poor old, Fozzie the bear.
Fozzie Bear coming back again. Yeah, if you'll notice this, that the small digit is probably the bear's thumb, the inside digit. That would be the large digit on a primate foot.
Yes, sir. That's what usually gives it away, is the fact that the first digit is smaller, not bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Wah, 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 wah. Sorry, folks. Not a Bigfoot foot. Don't put it in a jar. It's not really worth it. But hey, two kids in the woods find this thing laying somewhere. Yeah, you probably ought to have it checked out. On to bigger and brighter things. Dude, okay, guys, this driver injures at least 4 people at Sasquatch campground. It's not a campground where you can go and watch Sasquatch. Sasquatch is a music festival that happens every year, and this poor dumb bastard just goes plowing through the campground and nearly kills 4 people. Wow,
However, if you could sell tickets to come see Sasquatch and put up the big gate like at a concert, it might look something like this. People like, yeah, Sasquatch, woo!
Absolutely, dude. If you could browse them around like a King Kong, dude, you could put him on some chains and bring him right on out. Have him sit there and maybe play with a Rubik's Cube. He's probably that
flashes,
smart.
no flashes.
That's right. No flash photography, folks. We don't want to anger the monkey.
Yeah. But yes, being somebody who has camped at the Gorge Campground, the actual density of campers, if anybody were to lose control in that campground, it's lucky that only 4 people were injured and not a lot of people killed and a lot more people injured. This is like you could share stakes on the tents on these campsites. It's a big field and people get in as close as they can and party like it's 1999 because Lollapalooza was still in its epic proportions at that time. Yes,
that's right. So don't worry about it, people. You can't go to a campground and see Sasquatch whenever you want, but you can go there and catch the music festival every year.
This festival does mess up all of our searches. As soon as they announce the lineup for Sasquatch, it's like you can't search for anything for until the concert's over. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. Well, next up is the Ancient Origins website. Now, we like this one because, again, for the articles, they're fun to read. They're not exactly always correct. But we've been delving into the human species split between chimpanzees and humans and where Bigfoot might lie somewhere in between. So to find another ancient human spread with a completely unknown species of yet to be discovered in our line or beside our line is bringing that whole brother and sister DNA a little bit closer some 30,000 years ago in Asia and Europe. Did you check that one out?
I did, and this is one of those where we do like Ancient Origins because they go a little bit farther. However, most of the major news sources pick this up the same way. wait just 1 minute here, folks. So they're talking about. But wait, there's more. So what they're talking about is there is an unidentified, variant, a gene pool, if you will, and it becomes really hard to tell. Okay, what is, if you think of the parent, the purported parent species of the Denisovans, Neanderthal, and modern human was Homo heidelbergensis. That would be our last common ancestor, as it's known at this point, right? And so, like, well, maybe this is Homo heidelbergensis. Well, no. Because Homo heidelbergensis would have been any one of those things, and you wouldn't really know the difference until it becomes so far. Like, it would have to be farther back than this thing to be. It wouldn't be the humans interbred or Neanderthals or Denisovans interbred with this other thing. It would just be another thing. So what they're looking at here are these gene variants that kind of flow out from the species as we. The thing that, like, a lot of the other hominins didn't travel the way that we did, as far as we know, anyway. So you expect gene variants based on distance, if nothing else. Like, if you think of like DNA being a viral thing, you can't get back to the source population the farther away you are. So you create variants. It's like it's a migratory distance. It's evolution, people. So this completely unknown. Pond. Yeah, like, it's just this, a completely unknown species. Well, no, it's probably a known species. It's just a little bit different. And then the question arises, is Neanderthal and Denisovan different? We know Neanderthal and human are different, and we're pretty sure Neanderthal and Denisovan are different. We need some more specimens to really decide how different they are. Or is this just, these sort of things would help us answer these questions, rather than just saying, oh, it's a completely new species, because that's exciting. It's like the lumpers, where people try to lump everything in. It's just Homo neanderthalis. No, it's something different. And then the splitters, which is like, oh, it's a completely new species. That's the splitters are usually the people that found the fossil, and the lumpers are usually the people that try to push it back into a conformed, unknown species.
Right, because the moment it becomes something new, the discoverer becomes famous and important. The moment they lump it into something else that already exists, that guy just gets washed away with the rest of them. So, it's feast or famine, like it is with anything else. So you can check out that article at ancientorigins.net. Hey, Lauren Coleman was nice enough to review The Nature of the Beast by Brian Sykes. Now, although Lauren is very flattered by the words that the great master has about him, sadly, it's all about the book, or all about the DNA study. There isn't very much else in the book about anything else, really. There is no mystery monkey DNA, as everybody has been hoping for. And the big reveal after 2 years of the Sykes drum pounders going, just wait till Dr. Sykes' book comes out and he talks about his miraculous experiences with Bigfoot in Washington in the Pacific Northwest. Then you'll be sorry. Well, I got news for you. The book is out, and there's no such thing in it. Matter of fact, I had a conversation with Lauren over in the Coalition page where we mentored back and forth, and I asked a few questions, and he's like, yeah, he glosses over it, but he puts it up to an anxious mind and, convincing oneself of the surroundings. So you have Adam Davies on Davis on one hand, who says, oh, no, they're definitely there. The big guy is real. They're living in mounds. Dr. Sykes came. He recorded a bunch of stuff in his book, The Man Beasts, and now you have Dr. Sykes' book coming out going, yeah, not so much. So we have side-by-side comparison of the same events through different looking glasses. And
that, at least that is interesting. If nothing else, that is interesting.
So it's either one person's not willing to admit the case that happened there, and the other one is, or one's just kind of exacerbating on what actually happened there to sell books. I'm not sure which, but Mr. Davis is also wrapped up with the Bigfoot portals up there at Soha with Magic Johnson. So I kind of got to lean towards Brian Sykes' idea of, an anxious mind and self-hoaxing more so than anything else at this point. He still hasn't come out and talked about portals. And speaking about portals, go over to the Freudian Slips YouTube channel afterwards and catch out his piece on portals. Oh my God, it's hysterical. But basically, Lauren has read the book for us, and really, don't waste your money.
We don't always like to say "I told us so."
That's right, dude. That's exactly.
We fucking told us so.
That is exactly the right time to say that particular thing.
Not the kind of person to say I told us so, but you know what? I told us so. I told us so.
Supposedly Brian Sykes' book was going to come out and make people famous, and they were going to be all giddy and happy and rich, and no, that's not what's happening. As a matter of fact, I know that for a fact that Brian Sykes has been in contact with some of the squatchers here in America again, trying to make another go of it so he can write another book. I don't know what the catch of it is. If he doesn't believe in Bigfoot, he wants to make fun of Bigfooters, and now there's absolutely no groundbreaking things left in his book. Why bother with the topic anymore?
Depends on how many pre-sold copies of the book there was.
Well, I guess
truth.
I guess that's what comes down to it, is the bottom dollar. Just like old Mr. 7 Euro there, he found out there was more money in liking Bigfoot than being a poo-poo of Bigfooter. So there you have it, people. You can get the book soon. I guess it's released in Europe. It'll be around here very soon. Moving on. Hey, Cold Case Cryptids, Melissa Winadair, Rob Goudet, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Maximilian, creature expert on Cold Case Cryptids. Basically, they're going to run around the country and look up old news articles and then go out and investigate those old sightings to see if there's any truth to them. I guess it's a sizzle reel for a pilot. They don't have the pilot yet, but they want to shoot the pilot. So, and Dr. Jeff has been working with Rob and Melissa the last couple of years on lots of money-making schemes. There was Skookum. I guess there was the movie that they paid him to come out and be on, and we've seen him filming there with a couple of some of the wackiest people like Bill Brock. I don't know what's really going on there, but boy, Dr. Jeff really does try to keep his face up in the TV crews.
Yeah, well, as far as the sizzle reel goes, like that's for me, and I'm a dork, so it probably won't be as widely accepted. But for me, like that show is one that I would like to watch. Like if you finding Bigfoot in that style passe, if you're tired of the Monster Quest, that whole History Channel version of such a thing would be really, really a great a great ride.
What I say though is stop waiting for the production company to do it for you. Go out and film it in a web series, do a podcast like we do, and generate the views yourself. You should be capable of doing it. A lot of these people are just going about it the wrong way. For years, they're trying to get on TV and they're trying to get production stuff done. If they would have just pushed forward with a web series, they could have been long past us at this point.
Oh, yeah, probably, but. Again, we do this for free / peanuts because we love the topic, but some people want the return, they want the money.
Right, but if you've got a popular web series out there, they're getting 350,000 views a month. That's not peanuts. That's a paycheck for each and every person that's involved with that every single month because they keep getting watched. It's a matter of what's good enough to get paid for on YouTube, versus taking absolute peanuts for a production company. What do you think these people are going to get paid per episode on something like this from a production company? I can tell you, it's going to be like $800 to $1,000 an episode, and they might work 5 or 7 times a year.
Yeah. Pretty much. The
first year. So they're going to make $7,000 and probably lose $12,000 worth of personal work or ability to make that funds, in the background. There's no money in making this kind of TV. At least that's my experience with it. That's, I watched people go and do it and watched them wish they had stayed home instead.
Yeah. You could have made a lot more money by just staying home and not, being lampooned on national TV.
Exactly. But you can check it out at Vimeo.com and search for Cold Case Cryptids and see this. This is real cool. If it gets made, I'll definitely watch it. I'm just,
absolutely.
I'm just
down
confused on the tactics is all. I really, really am. Anyhow, moving on. Ronald J. Moorhead. That's right, the Sierra Sounds man himself posted this picture up just today, I believe it was, of an example of Sasquatch digging out the earth, burying some bad meat, and covering it back over. And if you look at the size of the finger drag marks in the ground there, those are some big old sausage fingers.
Yeah. A 9-foot Sasquatch is about 1/3 taller than, say, me. And so you could imagine proportionately it would be about 1/3. Yeah, this is an interesting image because that's an 18-foot Sasquatch.
Yeah, I mean, those fingers are really, really big. I agree with you. I don't think they would quite be that drastic, but we don't know. Those could be hand scoops for all we know, not finger marks. I mean, we really don't know what the situation is, but basically they had let some bad meat out, and the Sasquatch didn't like it very much, so he dug a hole and he buried it. Now, I don't know whether he's alluding to the fact that Bigfoot bury things, like maybe that's why we don't find their bones, because they bury them. And it's true, if you buried a human body in the ground but no casket, no embalming, it wouldn't take long for the worms and the insects to make it nothing.
Not long at all. Maybe this is Sasquatch doing a rendition, an artistic rendition of large hands where the meat was found.
Yeah, well,
that could be too.
There you have it. So you can check out it on Facebook if you're friends with Ron Moorhead, I guess. Also this afternoon, Dr. Meldrum posted up this picture of a new species. That's right, the Pliocene hominin, Australopithecus diarrhea. That's right. That's what we agreed on.
Australopithecus Rick Dyer.
That's right. Yeah. Basically, Nature.com brought up a new article. They've identified another link in the chain related to Lucy. Not really related to us, but related to Lucy, the first upriders that are coming out of the chimpanzee lines, and it's kind of neat. I like it. What did you come across?
Well, yes, I would love this area in the fossil record because it is so diverse and it's crazy. But so what I wanted to talk about was the we're talking about this middle Pleistocene area, right? And this goes back to freaking 60 plus million years ago. But you come back and there's the Miocene. Which is a really important time. And then this, the Pliocene, and then there's this Pleistocene, and then there's where we are as the Holocene now. So this area in here in this Pliocene is a really plastic time for this is like the drying period. And you'll notice that these are pretty large spans of time, and then once you get down here they become really narrow because we're looking at specific things and looking at different appropriate factors that
we also have more fossils from the later years.
And
we have far more fossils from the later years than we'd have from the earlier years, so we don't really know where they run in that line.
But this like kind of Pleistocene, like this is a very much more Australopithecine looking jawline than what we see in like the contemporaries that we're looking at. Something looking a lot more human, a lot more like those totally spacing out the we talk about it all the time, the Homo erectus or Australopithecine up in Georgia, and other things like that, and that 1.8 million years old, and so this is a really important time, that Pleistocene switch, and of course there's going to be another, or all these variants, or the relic populations. They stayed very much the same. They were isolated, or this, that, and the other. There's so many different factors, and finding them is phenomenal because it fills in the gaps and it shows the appropriate differentiation that we want to see for a living species. Sorry, all those folks that like the alien intervention, but this shows kind of that differentiation that we want to see, and is really important in the whole thing. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Exactly. So it's exciting when new species are discovered each and every time. And David sent this to me like right before showtime. Scientists find evidence of a 430,000-year-old murder. Now, how they determined it was murder, I'm not really sure, but I bet you he can tell us about it.
So this blow to the cranium actually has blunt force It basically shows that it was probably Homo to Homo. 430,000 years ago is where we're talking about a lot of these differentiations, especially between modern humans and Neanderthals, had already sort of ish happened.
And we're still back in this Pliocene area.
Yeah. We're right looking at the times when the Neanderthal and Denisovan were probably splitting ish, right? So this is a really good, like, kind of a muddled time where we were obviously interacting with each other, whether we were different species or not at the time, it doesn't matter. But we definitely broke each other's foreheads with rocks.
With rocks or stone axes or whatever the heck else we could figure out how to make.
Well, at that point, we probably had like a very basic hand axe, nothing that was, no bilateral hand axes for sure, but like for sure we had like a
big old bone,
a one-sided flinted stone that you could smash into somebody's forehead and probably kill them with, because we were killing animals at that time, and we do know that, and butchering them. So that's a really exciting find, kind of dark, but telling about our species, I'd say.
That's right. We've been killing each other since the day we were born. Like them damn Duke boys. I'm going to get you, Duke boys. Hey, look at that. It's already time for our tip of the week. Let's hear it. And now it's time for Rules to Squatch By with your old pal Wes.
Number 47. When out hunting Bigfoot, always make sure your bait is fresh and your aim is good. I hear fresh baby is what they're getting bites and nibbles on now. But don't be afraid to try new things. Happy hunting, Squatchers. Come check out my recent work and my art for sale at weslosner.com. Stay squatchy, my friends.
And as always, we've got an update from the 40 and Slip. Let's see what's happening over there with Chris to see if Alcorn's actually popped his lid yet.
This is what you've missed this week on the 40 and Slip.
I think you should allow Charlie to be your auditor when you become clear.
I'm getting there. I'm on book 1 still.
How many thetans have you gotten rid of?
I haven't even read about thetans yet, but I will.
Do you have to have an e-meter when you have Charlie read you?
Check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/the 40 and Slip and at the40andslip.blogspot.com.
Oh, that's right. Alcorn is checking in.
Oh, Jeff, what is that?
What? Just annoying shit.
There's something really annoying going on in the background. I don't even know what it's. It's probably not important.
It's never important. That's for damn sure. There you go. Got it. Good job. Guys, guess what time it is? It's time for the update on the crash of the Falcon Project. Yeah, last week, sorry guys, it happens. We didn't intend for it to happen, but Google really scrambled. They took our eggs, they put them all in one basket, and then they threw the basket off the edge of the table and decided, good enough. And that's what y'all got. I left it up as an example.
I'm impressed that it was actually able to take so many different sized chunks and just completely there was no way of putting it back together. Like there was no way of editing that back together at all. It was amazing how badly Google totally screwed us over last week.
Yes, it was. Well, apparently the Falcon Project is down for the count. Okay, this particular fella here, he was out part of the project. Basically, the 8 of the 10 guys showed up into the woods 2 weeks early to get used to each other and get used to techniques and procedures that they were going to use right before the project was out there. And William Allen Barnes was absolutely go out into the field. You're funded. We're getting all the supplies together. Your runnels will be ready by the time it's ready to go. And then when the metal met the meat, there was no help to be found. The Falcon Project had zero, didn't have zilch, didn't have a bit of funding in place to actually help these fellows out in the woods. And basically this guy, I am or was a team member for the Falcon Project. 8 of us came to Washington State to research for 6 months straight, backpacking into the wilderness, quit our jobs, gave up our homes to research, and you know what happened? It's all a lie. None of its promises were met. William Barnes shut down the links, which I've got an update to that, and the group said will not return any phone calls and left everybody hanging in the woods when they showed up. The Falcon Project is a lie, a scam, a fraud. Warning, do not fund it or believe anything written or said about it. William Barnes, USOB, I will find you one day, and that will be easier than Bigfoot. And you know why. The websites were actually set up by Kirk Brandenburg. And when it all went south, he said, well, the hell with all of this, and took those websites down. So it wasn't William Ellen Barnes that did that. Kirk actually did that. And Kirk's a stand-up guy. He also had something to say on the matter that was, out in the public. He said, go ahead and use it, because I talked to him specifically. Members of the Falcon Project ground team gathered at the end of April, spent 2 weeks getting to know one another, getting familiarized with gear, and working on procedures and techniques. It was an enjoyable endeavor, and some interesting probable Sasquatch activity was experienced. Unfortunately, issues developed regarding the delivery of technology, equipment, and supplies to the team. This resulted in the team disbanding and going their separate ways after 15 days in the woods. Much was learned that will benefit the next installment of the Falcon Project ground team if the issues get sorted out. Now, after that, I finally got a hold of Kirk and had a moment to talk to him via chat and have a short interview. Basically, what happened was the guy that was in charge of the funding for the Falcon Project ground crew quit. And the money that was supposed to be in the appropriate place for them to be able to reach it and use it, it wasn't. And they hadn't hired anybody for that position to make it so before these people went out into the woods. And William Allen Barnes just assumed that it was going to be able to be taken care of before these guys actually needed it. That is not the case. The Falcon Project money that's in the Idaho State University Fund is for the blimp, not for the ground crew. The ground crew was supposed to be funded by the Kickstarter campaigns and the crowdfunding type of things, which, if I remember right, they really didn't raise a whole lot of money in those campaigns for some reason. So here we have the end results of a serious problem. How do you trust anybody to do that again? Personally, like I said last week, I would have never stepped 1 foot in the woods till I saw at least pictures and video of the pallets of supplies ready to go in a car and get brought to me at some point before I ever left my house.
Hindsight is always 20/20, but like the thing that bothers me about this is that, yeah, go ahead, head out there 2 weeks. That's on your own dime or whatever. That's fine. We all love to go camping. Kurt goes out for weeks on end, and he enjoys that. That's fine. But the promise afterwards was that they were going to be funded. They were going to be taken care of. There was going to be food and water and gear and everything that was promised to them to go out there, and it didn't show up. And that's a dangerous scenario, depending on how deep you are. To be expecting supplies and have them not show up it's a very dangerous scenario. I've been watching I think the last couple podcasts I've talked about, there's this series I'm slowly getting through. It's basically like an expedition into Borneo. It's a bunch of scientists doing conservation science in Borneo, and these folks go through some crazy stuff. I'm not saying that the Pacific Northwest is as harsh as Borneo, because we don't have insects that sting and bite quite like that. But anyway, it's a potentially dangerous scenario, and not having enough food, not having enough fuel, not having enough emergency supplies can end somebody's life, and that's something that's really important to consider when somebody says that they'll send you out into the woods. Is show me, like, hindsight being 20/20, we all now have hindsight into this. Show me the money. Show me the shit that you're going to drop to me, where it is, and a GPS location of it, and a photograph of it being there, so that when I get to it, I can utilize it and not have to scramble out of the woods.
I mean, these guys, not fun. Yeah, these guys even bought their own equipment, made their own travel arrangements to the first site. I mean, that's not being supported. The project should have supplied all of that. But hey, like you said, as Ricky would say, hindsight is catch-23. Definitely check into what's really going on. We ask all these questions over and over and over again in all the different groups, and nobody from that camp had any answers whatsoever that were trustworthy enough to send people out into the woods out, and it came down to it. It fell flat on its face. So on to that, we're going to move on to tonight's epic Bigfoot encounter.
And now, it's time for the Squatchers Lounge Epic Bigfoot Encounters. We'll be taking a closer look at some of the most historical sightings, how they affected our view on this topic, and how they led the community to where they are today.
That's right. We're talking about Patterson Gimlin's experience in Bluff Creek. I forgot we even had an intro for this type of thing.
It's in there somewhere.
We get lost so many times. We've redone the show so many times. It's in there. But yeah, basically what we're talking about, 1967 October, late October, two cowboys are coming down the mountain on horseback. You know, they've been finding these tracks all the way into Pacific Northwest from Northern California through British Columbia, and they finally get some money together to go out on an expedition, get themselves a couple of horses, get themselves a little bit of support, and go camping down in the forest down there, and they start wandering and moseying around Bluff Creek. Now, they didn't catch this on the first day. They didn't catch it on the second day. But as they finally came around to their encounter, as they're coming down the hill, the horses were getting spooked. The horses were acting all funky and funny. They came around a corner, and I guess they caught a glimpse of the creature crouched down behind a big log, and the horse reared up, and Roger either thrown to the ground or jumped off of the horse. Yeah,
or both.
Or the details, depending upon who tells that story. I guess the pride would be which it was. Grabbed his film camera, started it up, and ran after the creature. Now, let's stop right there. Ran after the creature. That's balls, dude. What are you thinking?
I only hope that in that same situation, I would have the balls to pull that off. I mean, to imagine for a moment, you know, all the arguments aside, because we're talking about this as a Bigfoot encounter. We're not going to argue the merits and but there's seams and there's bulges and there's
that's not what this show's about.
Exactly. And that's not what this is about. This is about this encounter, what happened, and how this shaped our like the intro says, how it shaped what we think today. So the first part is you see this large creature, and it's exactly what you wanted to see. Like, it's exactly like for everybody. Like, that's exactly what you want to see. It's a fucking Bigfoot, right?
Well, for these guys, it was actually confusing because they were actually looking for a caveman. They were not looking for an ape woman. So what they're seeing is a really confusing large creature, animal, not man, and you're not alone. For the one time, hallelujah, amen, you're not alone. Your buddy's with you, and he sees it too.
Exactly. And your buddy is absolutely, scared in his tracks. But, Roger Patterson, you can see it. The film is all over the place. He is sprinting, and he's falling in the rocks. And if you've ever run over a riverbed, which, I camp on a river all the time, and my family owns property, you can't run. There's rocks. There's
I was walking and fell face first into Bluff Creek right there.
Yeah, at any sort of speed whatsoever, you're falling all over yourself. There's debris, there's rocks and sand, and things move in the way that you're not used to it. There's no way to hold that camera straight. So what we get, and frame 352, it's kind of in focus. And
that was after he was able to brace himself against a tree. After he had fallen down, he gathered himself up, run closer, and braced himself up against a tree.
Everybody looks at that image, and they look at the seconds before and after that, but what they don't look is the little bit of footage that we have where it walks off.
Right.
And that, to me, is the really good footage, but that's not what we're talking about. So this encounter, I mean, this is exactly what you want everybody to do, but nobody does.
Right.
Because, I mean, maybe he shit himself first and then ran
Well, here you got Bob Gimlin. Now he's still up on horseback. He's got his gun drawn because he's scared, spooked enough of what the heck this big monkey thing is that's in the woods there. His buddy goes running off after it. Now he doesn't have a choice but to cover his buddy, because if that thing turns to come back and run into him, he's got to unload the hell into it and kill it to save his buddy. It wasn't so much that Gimlin wanted to chase after this thing, but he had no choice but to move across the creek to cover his mate, to make sure that he didn't get, his arms ripped off and beat to death with him, like we talk about.
I will tell you, you can't man a camera and a gun at the same time. And I would have a lot more testicular fortitude if somebody was covering me. If I had Justin with a 30-06 or better, sitting behind me, somebody I know that's going to kill this thing if it need be, right? I could run up on it. Now, but if just anybody I didn't know, I wouldn't feel comfortable like that. But that would be the kind of situation where I would probably leap off a horse and run after something to get that footage, brace myself, get to the log, brace myself on the log, as close as I could get with a little bit of comfort there, and with somebody to cover me. That it's a believable situation for me. Like when you take, there's a lot of other aspects of it. We're not going to get into the before and after, right? Like just the encounter on its own that's not the problem, or the good parts of it too. Like it's just what it is, and it's a believable scenario where it's
absolutely.
Like, Bob, cover me.
If there was no film that existed for this, if the film had gotten lost, if the camera had gotten busted or knocked into the creek, and we didn't have any footage of it whatsoever, other than some blurry wet nothingness of the very first shaky parts, it probably wouldn't have been as analyzed as it has been. I mean, it really is the type of scenario that Bigfooters went and did. John Green went and did this kind of stuff all the time. If John Green had this experience, probably nobody would have questioned it, even if there wasn't any video to it, because why would John Green lie about it? But here in this particular case, you got these guys then who call everyone after it happens.
So there's the difference between completely dismissing something where you don't have to question it, you just dismiss it. The interesting thing about this footage and this scenario is that people can't just readily dismiss it, so they have to debunk it, right? That you have to do your best to reason yourself out of that being a real creature, because it can't be a real creature. It just doesn't make any sense, which I understand that aspect of it. But if somebody were to just tell this story, you would dismiss it out of hand, but you wouldn't feel the need to bolster your case why it isn't real. Right. So that's one of the best and one of the more bolstering arguments against this footage, is that it's so good that people can't dismiss it out of hand, and they have to argue against it, and they have to use particular points that are reaching as much as the people like M. McKay Davis and et al. Are making points to its benefit.
Now, I actually have a picture here of what was going on directly afterwards. This is John Green and I believe Bob Titmus when they were down there on the site directly after the event, inspecting what was going on. They had moved across all of the soft beds in the area. They found absolutely zero signs of tampering, no raking over of the gravel, no patting anything down. There wasn't any kind of heavy wheel out there to make it look like it was all crushed down. It was a natural trackway that ran across this sandbar. And again, at this point, they still didn't even have the film developed. They didn't know if they had anything whatsoever. But at this point in the encounter, these guys are like, yeah, well, Jesus, that literally looks like what we're looking for here.
And then they cast the tracks, and we can all buy replicas of them to see exactly what was pulled out of the ground.
I have one right over there on my stand. I mean, I've looked at it many times.
I don't personally own one, but I've touched them, I've looked at them, I've examined them, and so the whole scenario around this is it is the perfect Sasquatch encounter, in that it's still there. It lacks enough substance to where there's a lot of good things going for it. Don't get me wrong, but it lacks the substance to really make it true, to show it to your neighbor down the street and say, hey, this is the real deal. They can say, yeah, but yeah. Okay, well, so if it was just like, a story, hey, so-and-so saw a Sasquatch come across the river, it got into some dried salmon and walked off. And then the people moved out of town. Okay, well, they can be like, oh, well, okay, yeah. But they don't feel the need to unjustify the scenario based on, the fact that it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's amazing.
Right. I mean, they didn't debunk Ruby Creek because it was a woman telling the story.
Yeah, well, and not even like, it doesn't even have anything to do with the sex of the person telling the story. They don't have the Ruby Creek it's just that it's a story. You can dismiss it and just let it go. But this has enough things going, like enough evidence, enough to present to the end user to where you have to justify that it's not real.
I completely agree with you there.
Yeah.
And
which is why it's interesting to all of us, and we love it so much, is because you can't, even though people do like argue against it vehemently, like you can't just let it be. You have to argue that it's disingenuous. You can't just dismiss it completely. Just be like, hey, I don't care. No, you have to prove to me, you have to prove not just to me, like somebody who likes that film, you have to prove that is not real. And that's an interesting thing to have happened prior to 1970. I mean,
this is not the only Bigfoot encounter that's actually happened there within a few miles of the exact location where the film happened. Bobo tells of an encounter right there at Lyle's Camp where we stayed last year, of a juvenile coming almost midway into camp and tree peeking at them while they were up sitting by the fire closest to the creek. Onion Lake is up over the hill. Blue Mountain is but a few miles from there. Now, some of those were Wallows tracks, but not all of them. There's just way too many tracks to have been found for them all to have been faked at any one given time. So if that was the case, that nothing had ever been seen before and nothing had ever been seen after, then I could see the argument for, maybe it was just made up, but that's just not the case.
But in solidarity, though, all of those things, like, Bobo's story, like, anybody's story can be just dismissed out of hand because Sasquatch, quote unquote, doesn't exist. That's fine. We all have to understand that. But when you come across this piece of evidence and this film and this encounter, people aren't able to do that. So that's why the arguments happen. That's why, still to this day, there's just long threads of Patterson, Gimlin, this and blah, 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 blah. Like, it doesn't really matter. What do we learn from this film? What does this film show us? There's, a couple interesting things for me. You have to just let's suspend disbelief for all of the skeptics out there. What would this show if it was filmed by the BBC? Because that's legit, right?
Right.
So if the BBC came out with this film now, it would show a creature that's just nonchalantly, that should be hiding, nonchalantly walking away. Whether it came from an area, there's the whole, are there juveniles down there? Is it this, that, or the other? It shows a fairly docile and benign creature. It's worried about the people who are filming it. It's not being aggressive. As a matter of fact, it's being as passive as possible. It's doing what we would do if we saw a bear, is to quickly, without running, get out of the area. You don't want to trigger a prey response from any animal that could kill you, right? So you quickly, but in a relaxed manner, remove yourself from the area. And you disappear behind the tree line, at the easiest point, but you walk, you don't run. That's what this shows. And that's a really interesting point for me, and always has been. Like, why wouldn't, let's go down on the knuckle quadrupedal run and blah, 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 whether they do that or not. Why wouldn't Patty have just run away? Because Patty knew that there was a threat, and Patty didn't want to spark any potential prey response or any negative response. So she calmly walked off, kept an eye on, looked back a couple times, and got the fuck out.
It may not even been the first time she'd ever seen a gun. Because you have to remember that the reason that she looked back, the reason we have that look back at 3:52 was because that was when Gimlin crossed the creek and she couldn't see Gimlin anymore. And that's when she actually swung to see what the heck he was doing. Without Gimlin crossing the stream at that point, we would have never gotten the face look of the creature whatsoever. So I have a feeling that, you know, she's observed humans before, and she probably is pretty sure exactly what a gun is. I've seen deer that know what a gun is. I mean, I've seen lots of animals react to a gun. Matter of fact, I've seen songbirds react to a gun. It's very, very strange what animals can learn when they just sit back and observe a lot. And I have a feeling these animals do that quite a bit.
If they're primates, they definitely do that. They learn by observation. They learn by watching. And positive and negative, reinforcements don't have to, for a primate, don't have to be direct. They can be indirect. They watch a hunter take down a deer. Okay, the smooth ape with the gun is bad news because it goes boom and then the deer goes down.
Good.
And I want none of that. So apes and primates they understand indirect negative responses. So those are really important things to know.
I completely agree with you there, for sure, sir. Well, that's going to actually wrap it up on our discussion of the Patterson and Gimlin film, at least for this particular week with the encounters. I like it as an encounter story. Like I said, if the film itself didn't exist, I wouldn't have a problem believing the story. The fact that the film does exist makes it even that much more so that it did exactly happen as they said it happened, because we can see that it happened on film. Whether or not it was all contrived is still something that's yet to be proven to me. I invest my time up there because I still believe the film to be genuine. Otherwise, I wouldn't be bothering. Anybody who says it's disgenuine ought to possibly visit the site and see how difficult of a place it would have been to get to even in 1967, and then decide why in the world they would have pulled a hoax off there and not somewhere right off the main road that would have been just as believable.
There's a lot of really, really good questions that still revolve around this film. Don't dismiss it out of hand, but like anything else, a good amount of skepticism keeps us all in line. And
that's right.
I'm hoping that someday somebody will get that film of something contemporary, maybe a little bit more high definition, maybe a little less shaky, and it's going to put it all into perspective, and we'll get a thumbs up or thumbs down on that particular piece of video.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. Hey, I just got back from the Sierras and we found the camp out site, and it is absolutely spectacular. I'm actually glad to be able to announce that there are no camping fees. We won't actually be staying in general camping. We have a private location up on a ridge that is the most fantastic location that we could find and still be safe enough for everybody to get to by car. So I'll be sending out some information this weekend with maps and directions on how to get there and yada, yada, yada. But while I was up there, I was hanging out with John, and he actually finally sent me some audio that we picked up from last year. Now, he was up there a couple of days before, I think it was the weekend before, with his wife, and the cows had moved into the pasture where they had been set up. And he always sets his audio recorder on the top of his camper at night to record anything that's going on out there. And he was actually woken up in the middle of the night by what unknown animal screams so loud that they could be heard through the cowbells. And I wanted to give you all a little preview to listen to that before we start to work on that audio.
They're going off, you hear them? They're screaming. Quick, stick your head up here, quick.
You know, even through the cowbells that were right there at the recorder, there is still something just hauntingly screaming in the background, and I couldn't tell you what the heck that was. That's for sure.
I'd like to clean that up a little bit and see what I see in or hear in the background, and that's a definitely an interesting call, because I would love to talk to the person who took this and see if they're like, if they had any gauge of distance of that.
He's actually going to be up there at the camp out, and so will she. So we'll be able to have a nice long conversation about that.
We'll go on then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, that's actually going to wrap it up for this week's For the Squatchers On podcast. Buddy, what are you looking forward to? Was it 9 days now?
9 days.
No,
and we're
not
going to
9
be down
days.
there.
No,
What?
it's more than 9 days.
more than
It's
that.
still, yeah, it's 10 days, 15 days still. I got ahead of myself by a week. Yeah.
Damn it. So 15 days. They were going to be hanging in the woods.
That's right.
Bunch of people who apparently now don't have to pay. It's no longer a paid Bigfoot expedition. They weren't going to pay us anyway. They were going to pay somebody else. But if we have private location, here we go.
Yep. The private location is awesome for tent camping, hammock camping, car camping, however it is you're going to set it up. It's available there, and we have plenty of active area to go and investigate in. I mean, really, people, with the amount of people that are going to be there, if there's any type of evidence to be found, we should be able to find it.
I've got 3 places I want to look, and I've just done a quick parse on Google Earth. So there we go.
Yeah, exactly. Wait till you get out there and we get on one of the quads and we figure it all out. Well, guys, we're going to thank you very much for watching the Squatchers Lounge Podcast Season 3, Episode 23 already. Holy crap. More episodes than your favorite television show is going to give you, and it's always better than crappy TV anyhow. For the Dr. David Backdorf pseudoscientist, I am the Reverend Jeff Kelly, and we will see you next week. May the Squatch be with you.
The plane, boss, the plane.
Plane. Future episode of Down the Rabbit Hole with the 40 and Slip. What would you do if you're on Fantasy Island?
That could be a dark, dark episode.
Dude, all my exes live in Texas. They can all be buried underground. Oh,
Have
people,
nothing
stop
appropriate
yelling at me.
to
I
say.
don't care if you haven't figured it out. I really, really, really just don't care. #1 Bigfoot webcast in the galaxy. We'll see you next week, guys.